Hello and welcome to PJ's Media Reviews. I'm here with Sean, and today we're going to discuss Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990. Now, I saw this movie 30 years ago, and Sean saw this movie today. So it's going to be. I'm expecting an interesting back and forth because you're a little bit younger than me, Sean. I'm in my late 30s. You're probably in your like 20s,
I'm in my late 20s.
late 20s. Okay, so there's like about a 10-year gap.
Hmm.
Uh, First off, what did you think?
I didn't dislike it, but it's not a movie that I would like go around actively promoting. It's not something that I thoroughly enjoyed, like an Annihilation or something, right? But yeah, I think the movie has a lot of soul. It has a lot of heart, and it feels cheap when you're watching it. But it's full of goodwill, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I will grant the movie this. It does take you on kind of like a magical journey, if I can use those words. It's kind of like urban fantasy, I guess, what you can call it. A
Yeah.
superhero? Is it like superhero genre?
Yeah,
Bit of
well,
everything.
this movie is based on both the comic book, which was an adult, hard edged kind of comic book, and the cartoon, so it's a mix of that.
Okay.
So that's why a lot of people appreciate the first film, especially because it's the only one that has any kind of seriousness to it and any
Well,
kind of
it's very
edge.
dark, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
very dirty and kind of it's done in the sewers and yeah, it's like the first season of Arrow.
Did, did yeah, kind of. Did Shredder kind of remind you of Darth Vader in that opening scene?
Yes, he did. He literally says,
I am I am your
"I am
father.
your father" at some point,
Yeah, that was a
which that was an homage.
yeah.
I'm guessing. I liked Shredder. I think he was pretty cool. Everything is actively trying to be so cool in this movie, like '90s cool, right? Or late '80s cool.
Well, the soundtrack is like pure early '90s. It's got a bit of '80s like in there too, right?
Was that what? Was it MC Hammer that
Yes.
I heard? Oh, it was. Okay, I
Yeah.
didn't look it up, but wow.
Yeah. The soundtrack, the 1990 soundtrack for that movie was like huge too. There's a lot of like DJ Spin That Wheel and This Is How We Do It, I think, by MC Hammer that plays in the
Hmm.
club. Did you notice Sam Rockwell is in the movie?
No.
He's one of the main thugs. He's he's the guy at the end who talks to the cop and tells him where the warehouse is.
Oh,
It,
really?
it's his first. I think it's his first movie role.
Okay.
Yep. Uh, Michael Jai White is actually in the sequel. He's an extra.
I think that Sam Rockwell, he's not necessarily someone that I would recognize instantly. Like he's someone that I recognize now, kind of like when I came out of Jojo Rabbit. Like you kind of know who this guy is, but he's not someone that I would recognize by name, and especially not if he's very young, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's credited as head thug. This is like his second role, so no, I wouldn't have recognized him.
Yeah. There's not very many recognizable people in the movie. Like Judith Hogue, who plays April. She was replaced for the second movie, which I don't
Oh, I
know
hate it when they
why.
do that. I
Uh,
hate it when they do that. I hate it when they replace actors.
but she was great, and I like how in a
She
kids movie
was.
there's a sexual tension at the cabin between her and Casey. It's like
Casey's my issue. Casey's my
okay,
issue. That's I don't know if you want to get straight into that, but Casey is my
go
issue.
ahead.
He feels like a homeless guy. That they just picked up off the street. He's not a bad like the dude's not a bad actor. Um, and the character is not necessarily a bad character. It's just like I think the wardrobe department or the art department did like they I don't know. He's always wearing these torn up, worn out, very dirty clothes. His hair's never right. He's not well shaved. He just looks like a he's. I know that. What is he supposed to be like? Cool, casual, or like kind of laid back, whatever kind of guy.
He's supposed to be a mentally unstable vigilante who goes around in a hockey mask, kind of like Jason Voorhees, and just beats the shit out of people with hockey
Okay.
sticks and various items.
Um. Yeah, but I think that he could have had a bit more, not necessarily class, but just a little more. He could have
Yeah, he's
taken
a
care of himself just a bit more, especially because he drops a line at one point, like when they're walking through the sewers, he's like, "Oh, why can't any of the people that I ever meet have condos or something?" And it's
oh yeah.
like, yeah, well, no one's going to invite you into their condo, Mister.
Oh, there's a funny line I never understood as a kid when he goes down to the lair and somebody calls him a claustrophobic. He says, "Hey man, I never even looked at another guy."
Yeah, okay. I'm not one to be offended by things, but that, like, in the world that we live in today, when he dropped that line, I was like, did they really do that? Um,
I, I never understood it as a kid. I'm like, it was one of the lines that just went right over my head.
I also don't understand why they took it that like that. Okay, so they tell him he's a claustrophobic, and he basically reacts in the sense like, I'm not a homosexual. It's a strange way to take it that way. They should have taken the joke the other way, like, because he should have thought that they were thinking he's a homophobic, because at least you have the phobic part of the word, which is similar, right?
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's one of them. It's one of them old school, outdated jokes that people chuckle at the time. Like if you ever see Bill and Ted's those two movies,
Oh, that's Keanu and someone else is at it.
they say the F word in both of those movies, referring to a homosexual,
Oh, okay.
and people try to call him out for that. Like this movie is is homophobic and all this. I'm like, you got to
Mm.
look at the context of when things were made, and it's not like
Yeah, you can also like you. I wouldn't outright say this movie is homophobic. Like, you could also just say like, this character, this Casey guy. Maybe he doesn't like homosexuals.
yeah.
It happens.
Did
It
have you
happens.
ever
There
seen
are people like that in real life. So
Adventures in Babysitting?
no.
Anthony Rapp is in that movie, right?
Okay.
And I think it's him or another character calls the comic book character Thor an F word, and of course the Disney version cut that particular F word out, referring to a gay person. But there's also another F word, Fuck, that they say that's also edited out.
Oh,
So
really?
they are conscious of that kind of thing now, and they do take it out of. Well, that's a Disney movie, so surprising that a Disney movie would have those words in them, but especially one that's PG, but it's a different time, right? Like PG
Yeah.
movies could have some appalling shit in them at times. In fact, this movie
Well,
was,
there's a song, Little John and the what is it, the East Side Boys, um, where they go to the window to the wall, skeet 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 skeet, right? And that was playing on the radio all the time. Like,
that
all
the
of these
word
words
skeet
mean things.
the word skeet means something completely different where I come from.
Oh, okay.
It means like hooligan or thug or something like that.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah, that's an actual, like, spelt the same way and everything. And
Okay.
I used to try to tell people, like, that has a different meaning in other places, and they're like, "No, that's not what it means." I'm like, "Well, yeah, it does. There's songs about it." Back in the day, like this movie was really controversial. Ninja Turtles, going back to Ninja Turtles,
Mhm.
because they say "damn" several times in the movie. And even back in 1990, for a kids movie to have the main character say "damn" more than once was like a big deal. Especially there's a scene, the first scene where Rafi meets Raphael meets Casey Jones,
Yeah.
and he chases him,
Hmm.
and he tumbles over the car. He's like, "What was that? Looked like a big turtle in a trench coat."
Yeah.
And then you hear Raphael scream "damn" like that.
Hmm.
That had parents up in arms, believe it or not,
Oh,
and
really?
also and also the vi
I didn't even notice it. It didn't even stand out to me.
Mm. And the fact that uh, the turtles use their weapons, not even like to kill people, but like slicing pizza, and the fact that Raph just had his size, like which are lethal. These are lethal weapons that they have, right?
Yeah.
that are meant to kill people. And so if you watch the second movie, you'll find that they don't use their weapons. They use like Michelangelo uses like sausage links as nunchucks, and they really try to
What?
they really try to tone down the violence and make it like more slapstick and goofy. Even though the animatronics in the second movie are slightly improved, like they're more expressive, and the dialogue is synced much better, but in terms of darkness and seriousness that the first movie has, it just completely went away.
Yeah, well, the turtles in this one, they're not too. I think what's his face, the rat. What's that one
Splinter.
called? Splinter. You got to understand. I'm very well aware that the Ninja Turtles exist in this world, but I never even watched the cartoon as a kid. Um, I know that there are video games and what have you, and I've seen videos talk about these things. I know they exist. I even know their names, but I've never actually watched anything.
There's a great
But
episode. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
so I was just going to say Splinter. I found that Splinter was actually pretty well done. The rat, the expressions on his face and what have you. Better than the turtles. The turtles were a little less, believable.
Yeah, the Splinter's a full robot,
Oh, that's incredible.
operated by multiple people. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, and you can actually there's an old VHS that I had when I was a kid that showed the making of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like the first two, but it mainly focused on the second one, and it went behind the scenes of what's inside the animatronic heads and how heavy it is and how cumbersome it is to wear, and uh,
Yeah,
you could
mad
find it.
respect for the people fighting, like because like the fight. I would argue the fight scenes aren't the best kind of fight scenes, but they're still doing flips and stuff, right? They're still doing moves. These
Yeah,
people that are underneath these turtle costumes, so it's pretty impressive.
you'll notice in the movie when they're doing a lot of the faster moves and the hard hitting action that they actually have on lighter turtle heads that don't have animatronics in them, so their
Okay.
expression is always fixed. So there's one part where Michelangelo is doing nunchuck tricks.
Yeah.
He's doing like a little battle off,
Yeah.
and that kind of stunt that he does is so dangerous. I guess you can see that it's a different head. It looks like Michelangelo, but it's like it's just a fixed uh, expression.
That was a peculiar moment.
Yeah,
You're just sitting there, and it goes on for a while.
yeah. I find like the big fight scenes in the movie are kind of slapsticky and goofy, and you know they can't like they literally couldn't be too violent because it would have gotten like a PG-13 or whatever. But yeah, they did the best they could with what they had. Especially these stunt guys, I got a lot of respect for them in those suits. Like
Yeah,
you think about Doug Jones, him being covered up to play Saru. Anytime an actor is completely covered head to toe in prosthetics or something, or
mm.
any kind of it's hot, it's sweaty, and
Oh my god, it must be hot
you
torture.
have to yeah, you have to like you really have to concentrate to give it any kind of performance. And I appreciate the fact that for each character you have the guy in the suit, the guy doing the mouth, the guy doing the voice or whatever, and they have different guys like one for the mouth, one for the eyes, one for the eyebrows. So they all have to be in sync when they're doing this shit, right? And I can just imagine how many takes they had to do. And because this is an independent film,
That's what
uh,
blew me away. That is the small research that I did after this. Because when I saw it was it feels cheaply made. Um, and I was like, th- this isn't like a big AAA release, right? I was thinking this can't be something huge, like even back in the '90s. And so you look for it, and it's like it's an independent film. They did this for like how much was it? It was the smallest budget ever.
I think it was 30 million.
That
I
was
got
ridiculous. Wait a minute. Anyway, it's incredible. It's a passion project, isn't it?
It really is. Uh,
Um,
you know
yeah,
what I get the sense like when you're watching it, it's a movie that they intend for like audiences of all
Thir-
ages.
13.
13. Oh
Wikipedia says
Jesus!
13 million.
And it made
Box office
202.
200. Yeah, that's incredible.
Well, they thought this movie
It's for
was.
kids though. That's the thing. That I was trying to figure out the target audience. It is really for kids, isn't it?
I believe it, this was made for kids and adults. Like they wanted to make something that the kids of the fans of the cartoon could watch, like me at the time. And I wasn't
Okay.
aware of the comic book at all. Had no idea. I only found that out when I watched the little documentary later.
Okay.
But the comic is a little darker and more violent. So they find this weird like medium, and it's only when you watch the second one do you realize that, oh, this is the one that's the commercial property that's made exclusively for kids, and that adults will kind of roll their eyes at more.
Mm.
A lot of like the more adults, people who were adults at the time, really didn't like the second one. I noticed some adults when I was a kid actually liked the first one. I'm like, wow, it's kind of weird that some adults like this movie too. But then when the second one came out, like, this is garbage. Like, okay, I like it. It's fun and colorful.
The direct, like, there's some interesting directing in this one. Like, there are scenes where
The use of light in the movie is fantastic. The way they
the
light scenes.
yes, the use of light and even the camera angles, like that they take. They do these overhead shots when they're looking at documents, that kind of stuff. It's there's almost a stylized, like kind of artistic approach to the. It's not at all approach like just an action film, right?
Yeah.
They really try to create a kind of ambiance and a kind of universe for you to live in and explore, which is all
It,
about ninjas. Ninjas is a whole big thing in New York, apparently.
uh,
Everyone wants to be a ninja, right?
yeah, all the troubled youth are like, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna be I'm gonna be technically an assassin, but not really kill anybody, just steal things.
yeah. It's very it's not real crime, is it? It's much like when Wesley Crusher on the Next Generation is being uh, a bad kid. He's not really being a bad kid.
Yeah,
He's
like
like
they don't.
kind of a bad example, but the story doesn't want to go too far. Don't want to push the kid too far, right?
Oh, they do something in this movie, in this PG movie, that you'll never see in a PG movie now. And
What's that?
it was the portrayal of the youngsters as the little thugs, especially when they're in that lair. They're smoking cigars. They're exchanging. Actually, Sam Rockwell is the guy who's like, "Do you want menthol?" Or he's holding the two cartons of cigarettes.
Mm.
But you will never see kids getting on like that in movies now, unless it's like a child smoking a cigar, automatic R rating. And that was another thing too. Parents thought that the kids in the movie were a bad influence when really, like, there's a lesson learned, right? The kids turn good at the end, or most of them do anyway.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's a movie with a message, and it's not even like it's a very clear message, right? They're really teaching it's there's a moral to the story, and it's not. I don't think it's a bad influence movie. I saw
Yeah,
Stand by Me for the first time a few months ago, maybe a year ago now. You know what that is?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's based on the Stephen King book.
Okay. Is that PG-13? Um, because that's a whole bunch of kids, and they're saying all of these swear words, and like they're being real obscene, right?
I think that's a rated R movie, as far as
Oh,
I know.
okay. All right.
Stand by Me.
Because I don't think there are many movies nowadays with kids where they have them do these things. Because I mean,
Yeah,
Kick-Ass was a whole big thing when it came
it
out.
was it was rated R by the MPAA for language, smoking, brief violence,
Okay.
and a dead body is shown for a few seconds with blood on its face.
Yeah. All right. It was a
Yeah,
good movie.
yeah, I saw that a long time ago when I was a little kid. All I remember is the train tracks. Somebody gets stuck in the train tracks or something.
Oh,
If
oh, yeah.
if that's the movie I'm talking about,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, this character Danny, another actor you've never seen again ever. Uh, I found this when I was a kid. I found like it really emotional the scenes between him and Splinter. Even though the kid at the you even look at the kid now, it's like he's not that great of an actor, but they really make that rat emote. Like he's talking about like he's telling them the story of Humato Yoshi and Hiroku Saki, which
Mm.
is so dumb. Like it's really dumb about the rat. Even as a kid, I was like, "Oh, come on!" I liked it better because in the I think in the that was the book version of it, but in the cartoon they made Hamato Yoshi. Humato Yoshi and Splinter were one and the same, and he was a man who became a rat. But anyway, that's just a
The,
stupid little thing.
I got, I
Always
got,
bugged me.
I got to admit that that is the one thing. Like, I know it's stupid to say. I don't believe in the rat. You know, learning everything from his master in a world where there's like radioactive Ninja Turtles. But still,
Yeah.
it is the one thing that I had trouble believing. I was like, this rat pre pre radioactiveness was already smart enough that he was learning all of these things from his master, and he, you know, he got his ear cut off by the bad guy, and it was like that was a stretch for me. The whole backstory thing.
Yeah, yeah, that was. See, in the cartoon, it's uh, Yoshi who was Splinter, pisses Hamato Yoshi off. It has nothing to do with a girl, I don't think. But anyway, uh, Splinter before he's Splinter, he discovers the turtles outside of his dojo or something, and
Okay.
he gets the ooze on his hand, but he had just touched a rat or something, so the rat DNA mixes with it. It's all stupid anyway. But I mean, that's the silly thing when they get into the origin, they do really play it for laughs. Like when they're like saying pizza, pizza. That was the biggest laugh I remember. 30 fucking years ago, that was the biggest laugh that the movie got in the theater. My kids were like, "Oh my god, the little turtle talked." I went
Pizza.
to I went to see this in March of 1990, right? With my mother and my sister. We went in there, and the first show was sold out.
So how
So
old were you around this time?
I was 6.
Okay.
So I made them wait until the next show, and they were like pissed off and tired. And so we got into the second show, the later show, and I watched the movie. They were asleep the whole time. I was like, when it was over, I'm like, wake up! That was great. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
But back in the day, if you didn't see this movie, it was like you ever see that episode of The Simpsons where they all want to see the Itchy and Scratchy movie, and Bart
Mm.
can't see it,
Yeah.
and like that would be the pain that I would feel not seeing Ninja Turtles. Even the second one, it took me like 3 weeks to see the second one, and I remember being so jealous of everybody because everybody was talking about it. It was like people didn't care about spoilers, and like I give a fuck anyway. I just wanted to see it, and they're like, "You haven't seen Turtles yet? Are you poor?" I'm like, "Fuck you. We can't be going to the
You
movies all the time."
are you poor?
And kids were so
I
cruel back in the
yeah, I
'90s.
got the same thing. Don't worry about it. I got the same thing.
No, but
I
there was
used to,
actual violence.
yeah. I used to want to buy Warhammer 40K figurines, but I had not much money, so I would buy, you know, I would buy them very rarely. And then other kids in school would have like these huge armies.
Oh
Dude,
yeah,
buy some new stuff. I'm like, you know, I can't. Oh, guys so poor. Yeah, that's right. That's
yeah.
how it is.
If you didn't wear Nike sneakers, like people just used to just torment you.
Yeah,
And it's
my
like
bike is my bike is secondhand.
you're not wearing Nike sneakers. Yeah, but you're not. Your sneakers are cheaper than everything. Everything was a competition about what was more expensive on your body than the other person. Like people were obsessed with that when I was a kid. It was so ridiculous. I got to a point where I told my mother, I said, "You buy me anything with a label on it, I'm not wearing it. I'm not. I used to have the mentality. I'm not advertising for these fucking companies that have these brain dead fucking slave customers who base their entire self worth on the fucking clothes on their back.
Rebellious. Fuck the system, right?
I was a troublemaker back then.
Yeah, troublemaker. You would have fallen in with the wrong crowd. You would have fallen into Shredder's gang.
Mm. Can I tell you a story? I'll go way back.
All right.
1988. I think it was 88 or 89.
Oh my goodness.
The first toy I ever bought with my own money was $7. It was a Ninja Turtle toy, and man, they were hard to get. Actually, I should recommend anybody listening and to you that there's an episode of The Toys That Make Us. I don't know if you've ever seen that show on Netflix. It's
I specifically
fantastic.
watched the Star Trek episode.
I watched the Star Wars, Star Trek, Power Rangers, and Ninja Turtles episode. I'm not really interested in the rest. I think I watched the He-Man one.
Well, it's one of those shows where you can just like you don't have to. There's no continuity. Right? You can just snap on the franchise that you want that you're interested in.
But the story of the turtles and how the toys that made us, that episode is hilarious. And they talked about this movie and about how they screened the movie for the executives, and they thought it was a piece of shit, and that this won't make any money. This is gonna fail. And anyway, when they put the movie out, they were actually like kind of down and out about it. They figured, okay, we'll put it out, see if it makes some money. A couple of dollars, we might make our money back. Here it becomes the biggest independent movie of all time. And they didn't have any toys for the movie. Like there's actual Ninja Turtle toys based on the films. Like that look more realistic, I guess, and have like uh, spots on them and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they didn't have them ready, so like everybody was clamoring, "Where are the movie toys?" I was like, "We didn't make them because we thought this was a piece of shit," and everybody loved it.
Oh
So there
god.
you go.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So, do you have any like favorite parts that stood out for you?
Um,
Which one was your favorite? The turtle.
which one was my favorite turtle?
Yeah,
I think Raphael.
of
The
course.
right. I that's the go-to in it probably. But I mean, in all fairness, though, to the others, Raphael, I feel like is the one that we focus the most on. He's like the main turtle here, and he gets the biggest arc. I
Yeah.
think because he's the guy that you start off with. He loses his weapon, and so he's got the whole thing going on with April. He's also the one that kind of meets and gets into the fight with Casey. Um, so, like, the story is really kind of driven by him, I guess. Um,
He feels like the main character aside from
he does. He
April.
does. Well, he feels like the main turtle at least. I mean, there's
Yeah.
him, and then there's what's he called? Leonardo. He's the blue one. Is that it?
Yeah.
They feel like the main ones. The other two are kind of like um, they they kind of like sidekicks, so they work together,
Yeah.
right?
Look, watching this today, I kind of noticed. I'm like, holy shit, Donatello is kind of just like a weird copy of Michelangelo. He's just Michelangelo's sidekick. He's like, uh, he- he's he's Andy Richter to
Are they
Michelangelo's
are they
Conan.
are they all supposed to have very distinct personalities or not?
Well, the thing was, Leonardo is supposed to be the leader. Raphael's
Yeah,
supposed to be the rough guy, the rough tough guy.
yeah.
Michelangelo's the goofy comic relief, uh,
Okay.
and Donatello's supposed to be the intelligent one who knows about machines. But they don't really do anything like that in this movie, except
No.
for the scene where they're working on a truck.
Yeah, but
Uh,
that's more of a character. That's not so much his skill that's
yeah,
being developed. It's more his relationship with Casey. Actually,
yeah,
it's not even that. It's more it's because it's dubbed over. There's the voiceover with well, it's
April.
she's writing her memoirs or her article or whatever it is. April's writing whatever it is she's writing
Yeah,
in her journal, and she's explaining that they're all dealing with the loss
in their own way.
um, in their own way. So it's more about that. It's not so much about him being smart. I would have never told you that he's the smart guy, like the brains.
Yeah, and as goofy as some parts of the movie are, when they get on that farm and it's kind of like the Steve Barron, the director, he does a great job at like achieving atmosphere
Mm,
and a sense of calm and like a slowing down point in the movie, like
I like that. I
a kind
like
of
that
break in the
moment.
action. Yeah, it's
I,
nice.
I I honestly do wonder if the Avengers Age of Ultron moment is based
Uh,
on that.
yeah, probably. Yeah,
Because
I wouldn't.
they do the same thing. They go to Clint's house in Avengers, and so we have like it's not like an abandoned old house, but it is a house on a farm. Everyone has like time to kind of chill out, relax. There's character moments.
Mm,
You get like the what is the Hulk and Scarlet no, sorry, the Hulk and Black Widow moments and Nick Fury
uh,
reveal, whatever.
there's a bit of
I wonder
Star
if it's
Wars.
based on it.
There's a bit of Star Wars in that whole farm thing too. Toward the end, when he's meditating and he hears the
Yeah.
voice, and then
Yes.
you see Splinter above the fire. I was like, this is so Obi-Wan. In fact, when I saw the first Star Wars, I'd seen Return of the Jedi first before Ninja Turtles, but I didn't see the original.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I think I kind of thought that Ninja Turtles borrow. I kind of realized maybe Ninja Turtles borrowed from Star Wars a bit.
Hmm.
I never seen Empire until like later too, and the "I am your father" thing. I'm like, and I watched Ninja Turtles again, and then I was like, oh, he's Darth Vader. He's kind of because he's got the deep voice. In fact, the actor's voice was replaced because the actor who plays Shredder, that's not his voice. He's dubbed over with a much more deeper kind of
Oh
I
wow,
guess
they even dubbed him.
Japanese version of James Earl Jones. I would say that they were going
Okay.
for. Yeah, they definitely were going for a Darth Vader vibe with Shredder, and it worked. It
It's
worked
good.
very well.
I think he's a good villain. He is very villain, right? But he doesn't have like a motivation that you can somewhat relate to in any way. Like
It,
he's not one of
it,
those villains, but he works. I don't I like villains that we can relate to that they do nowadays, but I have nothing against a straight up bad guy that wants to do something bad. I like the
yeah,
simplicity of it. Um, my favorite moment you were asking, as corny as it may seem, and it's very underwhelming, but it is when they're all eating pizza in April's apartment.
mm,
I like that moment. I don't know. It felt I liked seeing like her laugh and they're just having a good time.
yeah,
It feels real, and I very much appreciated like the very first moment when she like wakes up in the secret sewer there. She wakes up and there's like a giant rat speaking to her, and she
oh,
freaks out. She's like screaming, and then she's like these turtles, and she's screaming, and I'm like, this is a realistic reaction. Sometimes in movies we don't have realistic react. Like if you were to
yeah,
really find putting the prosthetics and the makeup, like the costumes and everything aside, like if you were to really wake up and there's like a giant talking ninja rat and all these turtles, you'd be freaking out.
yeah.
So I like that.
She plays that scene very well.
She's good. She was really good. She was
And
a good character and great actor, I think.
there's a great thing that they do where Splinter's talking, but she's still talking over him, like trying to grasp everything. And she's like, "Why don't I ever dream of Harrison Ford?"
Yeah,
Another Star Wars reference, right?
I got that. I was like, oh yeah, okay. And in the beginning, Raphael goes to the movies and he's coming out of a movie called Critter.
Yeah,
I've never seen that. Is it something that I have to see? Is it was it big or was it just so happened that that was in the theaters and so that's what they filmed?
it was a popular '80s monster movie. It's really
Oh,
cheesy.
okay,
It's like little hand
okay,
puppets as creatures. I
all
think
right.
I'm not sure if Jim Henson actually his company worked on Critters because Jim Henson's company designed the turtles, and Jim Henson
Oh, that
actually
makes sense.
died the same year that this movie came out, so 30 years ago.
Oh,
And just a note, the third movie doesn't use Jim Henson puppetry, and it shows.
oh God. What? But
Splinter.
why though? Like, if you have these, you have them the turtles. Why don't you reuse the same ones?
I think the third one, something about rights or it went to different I don't know. I can't. There's there's certain videos on YouTube about it, but
Okay,
um,
I'm not there
watch
yet. I
watch that
haven't. I haven't.
watch that episode of the Toys That Made Us. Will give you some information about like the franchise in general. And
All right.
uh,
I don't want to
yeah,
spoil anything though. I don't want spoilers. See, I'm gonna watch these three movies before I go into the toys that made us.
yeah. The scenes you mentioned are considered the best scene, like some of the best scenes in the movie. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
glad, like as a newbie, you're recognizing like the really good parts.
Well, they're
Uh,
touching moment. Like the first one is realistic in the sense like I always relate to people that freak out when something happens. Like I don't like it how some characters feel very blasé about the
yeah,
huge things that are happening to you. Going back to the Arrowverse, there's a character called Diggle, um, which is always kind of freak. I don't know what they're doing with the Arrowverse nowadays, but when I was watching, every time like the Flash would do something impressive, or every time like a superhero with like a an alien would come in, he would be the kind of down to earth audience reaction. He's like, "Oh my god, there's like a guy that runs real fast." It's like, yes, you
yeah.
should be amazed at this, or at least impressed. And then the second scene is it's a heartwarming moment. They're like friends having pizza, chilling
Mm.
out. I like that.
Uh, One of my favorite scenes is when they come back to the lair and they find Splinter's gone, and they have that harsh like top lighting on Raphael to really like emphasize his expression of despair and anger, and the
Mm.
camera spins around him and then like zooms into his mouth. That really stood
Yeah,
out to me. Yeah,
there's a true effort in trying to make this artistic.
and as believable as possible, as silly as that might sound, they try to really sell the idea that these things are alive and
Yeah,
have emotions,
it's
right?
it is. It's very grounded. In and it's they try to make it dark and gritty as and they're very New York, right? I like
Yeah,
they don't try to pass them off as there's none of that kind of juxtaposition like oh they're aliens or they're animals like no they're basically they're New Yorkers except that they have turtle bodies.
yeah. And there's something in the movie that's very subtle. When Raphael's going out in his trench coat, going to see a movie and stuff.
Mm.
As a kid, I was like, they can kind of still see that he's a Ninja Turtle, even in the
Yes.
trench coat. But then I realized as an adult, I'm like, this is fucking New York. They don't care, and it's emphasized in that scene when the guy's like, "Hey, what was that? It looked like a
It's a
turtle. It looked like a turtle in a trench coat. You going to
just doesn't give a
LaGuardia?"
shit. He doesn't give a shit. It's like, all right, turtle in a trench
And
coat.
just a little trivia thing, little little footnote. The guy who says what the hell was that? He's the cab passenger. That's the guy who plays Raphael.
Oh,
So it's the same voice. When you hear his voice and then you hear Roth's voice, it's like the same guy. Yeah. In
okay.
fact, the guys who play the turtles make cameos throughout. Like, if you really get into the like behind the scenes stuff, you can. There's a, there's a lot of
So this
the
has become like, is this a classic? Like, do people
this
genuinely enjoy it, or is it like an ironic kind of classic?
it's a cult classic. Uh,
People enjoy it for different reasons.
yeah, like a newbie like you who really you're not invested in the Ninja Turtles like somebody in my age group. Uh, you can watch it and see the silliness and the stupidity of it, but you can also see like what they were going for in the seriousness and the tone. Uh,
Hmm.
it comes across 30 years later. Like this is a movie from 1990 that like just the fact that this thing got made is insane because you look back at some movies in the 80s and you're wondering like Garbage Pail Kids, which is something that used very shitty animatronic heads. Uh, that movie is like one of the worst movies ever made just because the technology that they were using just doesn't work. And if you had this 1990 movie without the help of Jim Henson's uh, animatronic puppet team, it would have it would have been completely different. If their mouths didn't move, if their expressions weren't right, or they didn't look right, uh, even the people, even the executives who watched the movie when it was all said and done, didn't buy it. You know what I mean? They were looking at these weird looking things with mechanical heads, puppet heads, and like nobody's gonna like this. And they were just so focused on that kind of off-putting visual. I don't think they understood the the core of the story. Like it's about family. It's about
It is.
and it even like the shredder. He's like trying to take these kids in and say you're family, and then they realize this is not how you treat your family, and they look at the turtles as the role models at the end. I guess you know Casey Jones straight up murders. Shredder's not dead, obviously, but they murder him at the end. I found that a little bit fucked up. People do it to this day. They're like, yeah, Casey Jones crushes his head in the trash
No, I
compactor.
didn't see that. See, I didn't see that.
But you're putting a
Um,
human being in a trash compactor. He's probably gonna die. You know what I mean? Like
Probably, but
he
I
knew what he
didn't.
was doing.
Yeah, I didn't see that in the movie though. I'm gonna be honest with you.
You
I
see the
didn't.
helmet.
You
Yeah,
see the helmet, but not the
yeah,
head.
yeah,
And I automatically. But this is because I'm not watching the movie in '90. Right, I'm watching the movie in 2020, which means
yeah,
if I don't physically see a head explode, then I assume that the person is not dead.
yeah.
Right, I'm coming out of Fantastic Four, like of course the dude's not dead, right? Like people
Mm.
don't die in movies. So like when I saw the helmet get crushed, I was like, they crushed the helmet, but he's wiggled his way into the uh, trash or some. He's protected himself
Yeah,
some way. So
yeah.
some
And
far fetched thing.
there was a debate after like the movie came out. Like, is he dead? No, he got crushed. No, he didn't get crushed. He could have survived. You know what I mean? Like, but he fell from the all the way from that top of the building. Like, we were to actual debates, and then of course, you know,
My knowledge
yeah.
of the Ninja Turtles is non-existent basically. So I don't know if they have multiple villains that they confront, or if it's constantly like Shredder that finds a way to come back, and if like every time there's a villain, he's just like a goon sent by Shredder. Um,
The bad guy in number three is the same bad guy from Lethal Weapon 3, and
what?
yeah, he's terrible. Talk about like your shitty fucking shit eating grin piece of crap. Not love to hate, just straight up hate kind of villains.
Okay. And in the second one, so it is this guy that returns. It is Shredder that comes back. Is it
Yeah, and yeah, it's called Secret of the Ooze, and yeah, he comes
this?
back.
Yeah, I see the
And
secret of the ooze.
there's a really really I won't give it away, but Shredder is just a stupid joke like in the second one. He's not even intimidating. He's not even he's for one thing he's played by a different actor but the same voice. I
Okay.
find like for some reason the new actor doesn't look as intimidating as the guy from the first movie.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, and
I
he's
do
just
like that he's just a
yeah,
human though. Usually you'll watch I'm gonna go out and say this is kind of like a superhero movie, and like the way they got their powers is with radioactive ooze, and so you would expect the villain to be something that got radioactive as well, right? Like
yeah. You
poisoning as well.
don't speak too soon.
I see. Okay, that's the secret of the ooze.
the
But
the
yeah,
use
no,
the use is used on more
okay,
than one specimen.
throughout the all right. Oh, okay. Well, this one is just a human though. This one is just a human thug, right? He's a bad guy. And
His motivations are
I like that.
strange. His goal is
I don't
to
understand what he's trying to do with the kids. That's my thing. He seems like a very serious, very true villain, right? He seems like a gang leader, basically. He seems
yeah.
like an international level thug. I'm like, that's fine, but why is he? Why is he getting all of these kids to steal TVs for him? I don't get that. Like, what is he trying to accomplish exactly?
Th- There's a really funny part in the movie where this woman's on her balcony watching TV and she turns her head for a second. and the TV's gone. She's like, "Fuck! I can't even watch TV in my own balcony." Like, fuck. And how much is that TV worth? They're gonna get
Where
like
was it?
$5 for that.
Where was it plugged in?
It wasn't plugged in. It was It was one of them battery operated TVs that takes like 18 D batteries.
Yeah, no, like the motivation for the villain is unclear to some certain extent. They like create a motivation later on, like once they explain the backstory, and then he realizes that there's Splinter. He then has this motivation to kill him, but you're like that's like that lasts a few minutes. I don't understand why he's not. I guess it's because it's a kids movie, so you need to have kids, and you need to show them that set them on the right path. I suppose that's the whole point. You can't have adult thugs really killing people and committing you know horrible crimes. But that's what you
Yeah,
would expect this guy to do.
yeah. When you really think about it, Shredder's just a guy who recruits kids to steal petty items to build up to sell, I guess, and build up some kind of empire.
Yeah,
But he has
he
this like
doesn't.
little amusement park hangout for them.
He
It's
doesn't have
really
enough.
like far fetched.
He doesn't have enough adults. That's the thing. All right,
He has
imagine
he has that one guy.
is that one guy, which he's he seems more like have you ever been like during summer vacation in France you'd have these organized things where like you'd pay for a week um and like there's like this maybe like a lost like a student or someone. He's like 20. He's gonna take care of a group of kids and they're for a week and they're all gonna go out, do activities and that kind of stuff. um you know what I'm talking about?
Not really.
All right. There's like organizations in France where you'd pay for like a week for like activities and they would have
Okay, yeah,
people that take care of kids.
yeah. Okay, yeah,
um
okay.
that's what he seemed like. He seemed like basically this person that's taking care of a group of kids, because the only real moment that he has in the movie is when he says kill them, and he closes his fist.
Yeah.
Well, he opens it. No, he closes his fist. I think
It says ninja vanish.
he does. He says ninjas vanish, um, and we never see the vanishing, which was disappointing. Um,
There's a great shot in this movie.
Shredder should have more adults. That's my conclusion for
Yeah.
Shredder. He should have more adults. I understand the point of getting all of these kids. I even like the idea that he's kind of brainwashing these kids. He's like, "You're gonna be my part of my family." He's giving them all of these toys that like these. He's got all these things that they can do, like in this place that they can hang out. And I feel like in the like that's a long game kind of thing. Like he's
Yeah.
recruiting them and he's brainwashing them, and in say 10 years from now, they will all be very effective ninjas, and they will be completely devoted to him. But in the meantime, he needs to have adults. He can't just have this one guy that's his ninja,
Yeah.
his vanish. He's
And
not enough.
it's always a creepy thing when like a grown man recruits a bunch of underage people for any reason. He's like the ninja version of Jeffrey Epstein or something like that.
But he doesn't give away that vibe though. This Shredder guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's anyway.
They show the I forget his name, the henchman, the bald guy. They show him really hurting one of the kids, right? And there had to
Hmm.
be a moment where they showed something like that, but it couldn't come from Shredder because he would have like just it would have been too violent. It would have been too bloody. So the closest they come is when he's intimidating Danny after he's talking to Splinter, and you think,
Hmm.
oh, he's got the blades out. He might do something, but then he just grabs the picture. But yeah, they couldn't have if it was like an R-rated kind of thing and they could do anything. It would have been like a cool moment to see like him really hurt one of the kids, like actually probably kill one of them if they
But I don't
betrayed him or
think
something like
this
that.
movie would have been what it was if it was R-rated, though.
Yeah, and to
You know
this
what I
day,
mean?
some fans still want a hardcore like
version of this.
truly, truly based on that old comic where there was like blood
I
and
can
stuff.
see that. I can see that. I would be interested in seeing a truly R-rated, like hard R version of a Ninja Turtles story. I would, but this movie in particular, I think that the balance is achieved,
Mm.
and it's all the better for it. It's fun.
Yeah,
My
it is.
problem
Yeah,
is the pacing. That's my issue. It's
it's so
only an
short.
hour and
It's
a
an hour and a
half,
half.
but
Yeah.
it feels like five. To me, it felt really, really long. It was like I waved my mouse over like, and I was like, oh my god, I'm only halfway through. This is this is taking a while. Um, and it's because some moments are
Did
awkward.
have you have
There
you
are
seen
moments.
have you seen the new ones?
No, I haven't seen
Okay.
anything. This is it.
Oh,
This is
okay.
I've
It's
begun
the
my
first
journey.
one. Yeah, that's cool. There's
Um,
an
can,
animated movie. Do you know that?
oh, I think I've heard of that one. That one's called. That one's just got the letters right.
Yeah.
TMNT. I haven't seen
Yeah.
it though.
Okay.
Is that worth it?
Not really. There's a
I'm
live
assuming the
action.
new ones aren't.
There's a live action TV show too that's kind of a continuation of the third movie. It's called The Next Mutation. It's it's made by the same people who made Power Rangers at the time, and there was actually a crossover. There's an episode of Power or one of the shows where it's like Power Rangers versus the evil Ninja Turtles.
The evil Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, they're like evil. I think it's a Power Rangers episode, but the Ninja Turtles are in it and they're like brainwashed or like they're under mind control, and the Power Rangers have to fight them. You can probably find that clip on YouTube or something, but like
Yeah, I
this
might
whole
watch the show,
franchise
but I
went
won't
into
be
a
watching
deep
the movie.
the whole franchise went into a deep, deep, weird rabbit hole. Uh, After the first movie, they went on a Ninja Turtles concert tour, and they went on Oprah and all this stuff, and
What?
the costume, and they did rock concerts with Splinter, and this is some of the funniest
What?
shit you will ever see in your life.
My
Absolutely
God.
terrible. It's like Splinter up there singing like rock ballads and stuff.
Oh my God. There's a whole thing. This is a whole thing I'm unaware of. This is like when you find one of those sections in YouTube that you were completely unaware existed.
Oh my god! If you go down the Ninja Turtles rabbit hole, you will be there for a while. It's
I
it's
probably
it's a
won't.
no no.
I'll watch the movies. I'm interested in watching these first three movies, and then I might, out of curiosity, watch the two. There's two recent ones, right? Um, is that over? Did they stop those movies, or is there like a third one planned?
The 2014 movie was generally well received. It's still like really kind of dumb and stuff. And Shredder is like this overblown like super villain with the like an Iron Man kind of costume thing, where
Okay,
it's really like overdone. But some of the visual effects are really quite good. The second one also has like mostly decent visual effects. It's a little more cartoony, and it really goes off the rails. Stephen Amell from Arrow, he plays Casey Jones in the second one, and
okay.
he's like this really watered down like milk toast version of Casey Jones, and he's like
Is he?
he's a little whiny bitch, and he's like, I'm gonna be a cop someday, And I was like, oh my god, this is Casey Jones. This is why I appreciate
Wait a minute. So
live.
that's not the same character, is it? That you're describing.
It's the same character from the first movie. Casey Jones appears in the first and the third one, even
But
though in the third one they don't really give him anything to do.
Casey Jones here doesn't really have an arc at all. He's
Now,
just a vigilante, and then he gets the girl because the others are turtles, so they can't. Um,
the Casey Jones in the first movie is more true to like the intended version of him, and then later
okay,
versions kind of soften him up. You know what I mean?
okay.
Yeah. But
Well, he's kind of a villain here. He's kind of a Punisher kind of guy, right?
yeah,
He's not anti-hero.
he's definitely. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure he's 100% based off of the Punisher. He's like a poor man's version of the Punisher.
He's the Punisher but with a hockey mask.
He's Wayne Gretzky on steroids.
Yeah, no, he's okay. I might watch those ones though. I'm interested in watching these first three for starters. Like now, I'm. It got me hooked enough. It's not the best movie that I've ever seen, but it's got my attention.
Uh,
Um,
another great line is when Raph says he's like cricket. What is it? You gotta understand what a crumpet is to play cricket.
yeah,
Something like that.
like that. Uh,
Yeah. So
that
anyway,
that that first standoff was a bit strange. In the sense that I think they were trying to pretend like Casey doesn't realize he's a turtle.
well, he says
He
he
says
says like
things like, "What are you like? What are you wearing?" Or what does he say? He says something about like
he's what are you, a
ugly dude in a
punker or
hot tub.
something?
So what's a
Especially
punker?
ones that were a punker is like a punk rock dude from the time.
Okay,
Like
so a punk.
that line didn't make sense to me, but he does say what do you like wearing a green mask or something like that, and that goes to the whole thing about New Yorkers, and like they wouldn't automatically assume somebody's a mutant turtle. They would assume it's some guy in a costume at first.
Yeah,
Even in there's a scene in the second movie where the turtles are in public. They're seen by a crowd, and one guy's like, man, those are cool costumes, right? So like they
yeah,
don't
okay.
assume right away that
But I
this is a
mean that
little
makes sense. I mean it
yeah.
makes even more sense today. Like you just assume someone's cosplaying for like a convention or something. Like
Yeah.
if there was like a Vulcan walking around, you wouldn't assume it's a Vulcan. You just you know someone dressing up.
That's what like Spock in that episode, "The City on the Edge of Forever," and
Mm.
Star Trek Four when he has to cover up his ears. I'm like, I get it, but it's not like people are gonna faint if they see pointy ears. They're gonna assume
Um,
like they're fake or something.
I would give those movies or that episode. I would give them the like it's
Benefit of
in
the
yeah. Well, it's Earth, but in the '60s or in the '80s, so maybe it
yeah.
was less common. Like nowadays, I don't think you'd need to do anything. Like people I'm sure there's someone out there that's actually modified the areas to be pointed as well. So
If they had an episode of Strange New Worlds where Spock goes back to our time,
mm,
and say Star Trek didn't exist as a property, but other things did, he could just go
mm,
around as cosplaying as
like an elf,
Elnor, yeah, is from Lord of the Rings. Was it was
El
it Elnor?
Elrond, Elrond,
Elron? Elron. See, I got it confused.
Elnor's from Star Trek now.
They're interchangeable. Yeah. So, will you come back and discuss the second movie with me at some point,
I will,
if you want?
I will,
I can hear you
absolutely.
now. It'd be like this movie was so stupid. This is worse. I thought I really appreciate the first one now so much.
Why did he make me watch this? No, I
It's
will
it's
because
it's an
yeah,
interesting watch for the fact that the animatronics are noticeably better, and the expressions I actually find they're more expressive in the second movie.
I get the feeling like so this was um as you were saying and from what I saw online, this was the highest grossing independent
I, I,
movie
at the time, I believe, and
at the
I
time.
think
Okay.
Blair Witch Project broke that record. I believe. I'm not sure.
That was years later then.
Yeah.
Um I'm assuming that the second one was not an independent movie. Like a studio picked it up.
Yeah, it
And
was it
that's
was
why it went
it was rushed. It was rushed into production like right away. It came out, I think, less than a year later. Let me just check. Ninja
I said it's
Turtles.
like we don't have
The
any
first,
toys. We got to make a second one.
yeah, the first one came out in March 1990, and the second one was uh, March 1991. Like a year later. It cost 25 million,
A
much more
year
than
later, 1 year.
1 year. They went into production right away. That's why
That's
I think that
incredible.
that's why the story is so like fucking like
I was gonna say
slap
there was no script, and they
the
came out a year
story
later. That's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, the story's very slapped together.
They made
But
it. They made it up as they were going, right?
yeah, it made 78.6 million in the US and Canada, and 54 million worldwide in rentals. So yeah.
What was it? A direct to video? No, it was a came out in the theaters. You said.
Yeah, I've never seen it listed like that where it's just United States and Canada and then the rentals worldwide. I don't know what that means.
Hmm. Okay.
Uh, film was
So it cost twice as much as the first one to make, but didn't make as much as the first one.
yeah,
That seems like a standard sequel kind of
yeah,
thing that happens. I have a question. I have a question, and you might not be able to answer this, but when you go onto the internet and you search the movie, it's called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, but Netflix, as I was watching it, had it listed as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the movie. Do
yeah.
you know what that's about? Is there a reason for that, or is that just
Well,
Netflix having fun?
I know it was originally advertised as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the movie. Like the poster I had as a kid said that, right? But then
Okay.
over time, people just called it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then I think Netflix wants to emphasize the fact that this is the original movie because they have so much other Ninja Turtles content
Oh, okay.
on Netflix, like the live action TV show and the animated movie, and they did have
Oh, there are so
they
many
did
things
have
that
the
have the same name. Then.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
And the third movie was 21 million and only made 54.5 million. Uh, in
Hmm.
fact, the third movie, when I went to see that the opening day with my friend, uh, I don't know how many. They must have had like most of the screens open for this one movie, and the lineup was the longest lineup to this day I've ever had to wait to see a movie. Like we
This
were
this
so
was
far,
the Avengers Endgame of its time.
we were so far back. I don't know if that was like that worldwide. I just know like where I lived when Ninja Turtles 3 came out, everybody was going to see it. And I was like, me and my friend were sure it was going to be sold out by the time we got there, but they had enough screens and the theater was packed and like, it was crazy. And then the movie was so bad. And I guess initially a lot of people did go to see it and then they told their friends like, fuck this movie. Do not go and see it, and then it just dropped off.
Oh wow.
I, yeah, I just want to box office. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 debuted at number one at the U.S. Box office. Uh, although it made twice its production budget's returns were barely more than half of the previous film and roughly one quarter than the first. It was
God.
considered as a disappointment. Yeah,
Well,
if you're
I'm
gonna,
looking forward to that one.
yeah. All right, well, we're gonna leave it there. And Sean, it was so good to talk to you about this movie because I've never. It's because you're not a Turtles fan, and this is the first thing that you saw. I'm
This
glad
is
I'm
the
introduced you to.
first thing.
I'm glad I'm introducing you to this world. And
Look, I needed an excuse. I've been aware that the Ninja Turtles exist for so many years, and I watched videos online, maybe like Funhouse, maybe they played like an old Ninja Turtles game, what have you. But I've never seen any content. So, um, yeah, I needed an excuse, and you gave me it. I watched it.
would you would you give this a no or a yes out of 10?
I'd give it a yes. I'd give it a yes out of 10. You know
I would
what?
also give it a yes out of 10. Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead.
don't go in and expecting a masterpiece or anything. If you're listening to this, a person, but I would still give it a yes out of 10.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave it there and tell us what you think below in the comments. And have a great day, folks.